I am Jen Heaton-Jones, the Executive Director of the Housatonic Resources Recovery Authority. So we are 12 municipalities in Western Connecticut. Here's the map of our member municipalities. And we focus on sustainable material management for solid waste and recycling. We register and permit the region's waste haulers. We assist our municipal transfer stations with programs and public education. And before COVID, we went into schools, K through 12 and libraries in person to teach waste reduction and recycling. But we have finally adjusted, and here we are tonight, and I appreciate everyone's patience. My goal tonight is to inspire you this evening, and I hope you will learn something new. So the waste stream, before we get started into the weeds, I want to have a broader look to sort of open your eyes up about the waste stream and really start to think about it. It's a complex system of generators, transporters, transfer stations, processors, and disposal facilities. Our generators range from single-family households, multifamily units, apartment buildings, to complexes and private communities, small businesses, restaurants, corporations, retailers, hospitals, schools, universities, and so on, generating millions of tons of waste in Connecticut a year. It's not as simple as deciding which bin to use, as though there were only two, a trash and a recycling bin. It's much more complicated and inconvenient than that. And most people don't know we actually have a problem right now in the state of Connecticut. Where is everything coming from? The quality of the material, the choices being made before it ever enters the waste stream, because we are at capacity in the state of Connecticut. We are producing more garbage than we can manage in state. And the fact is, waste is actually local. The success of any program is dependent on the residents and the businesses owners, their buy-in and their behavior. So hopefully your buy-in tonight will actually change your behavior. And that's why I'm really happy to be here. So here's a thought that most people don't think about. Solid waste management is a universal issue that affects every single person in the world. Think about that for just one moment. No matter a person's financial status or their ethnic origin, every single person generates trash. Not everybody owns a home or has a child or owns animals or drives a car or even uses public transportation, but every single person in this world generates garbage and trash, and then it must be managed. Sorry. Now think about this. No matter which generator you represent, resident or business, more often than not, you put the trash out and we forget about it. We don't worry where it will go. We just want to know when will it go. Can you all agree to that? Most people just wonder, when's the trash day? So we're at a crossroads in Connecticut on how we will achieve a more sustainable system to collect, process, and dispose of our waste. And if you truly are going to take a comprehensive approach to solid waste management in Connecticut, we need to look beyond those two bins of just trash and recycling. So please carefully listen to the following list of my disposal items, and I want you to think about where does it go and what happens to it. So think about this for a second, because it's not just the garbage can and the recycling can. There's food waste, there's junky and bulk waste, there's hazardous waste, there's special waste like fire extinguishers and smoke detectors and sharps and batteries and plastic wrap. There's textiles, electronics, events that you go to has garbage and recycling, restaurants, hotels. There's mattresses and tires and propane tanks and oxygen tanks. And there's paint and scrap metal, appliances and carpet and asphalt and concrete and all sorts of other building supplies, cooking oil, medical waste, industrial waste. And I could go on and on actually. So think about, wow, what happens to all of this waste? We need to look beyond waste disposal as just it goes to waste to energy or it goes to landfilling, and consider alternative methods of managing the material that includes reuse, repurpose, repair, remanufacturing, recycling. The items we dispose of are actual resources. They're not just waste. And we need to begin moving from a linear economy to a circular economy. What is that? A circular economy is fundamentally different from a linear economy. Because to put it simply, if a linear economy, in a linear economy, we basically take, we make, and we dispose. That's it. We mine the raw materials, then we process it into a product, and then we throw it away after use. However, in a circular economy, we close the cycle of all these raw materials because we're making, we're using, we're recycling, or repurposing, and it's being made into a new product, and then again, make, use, recycle, and that's a circular economy. So it's important to understand, where does our trash go and where does our recycling go? It will help bring you aware to the life cycle and to the impact of the material to our environment. So most people don't know that waste in the state of Connecticut is sent to a waste to energy plant, where the waste is incinerated and it's converted into energy. The state of Connecticut has 100% waste to energy. We have 5 waste to energy plants in the state. The solid waste trash in the town of Reading is sent to Bridgeport, Wheeler Technologies waste to energy plant. And I'm going to show you a video so you can understand how a waste to energy plant works. But this image is the inside of the pit. There's a gentleman sitting up. It's pretty much a little man-made joystick. So you think of the little games that when you go into like a Magnet Flies or some kind of fun store, and you put in a quarter or $1 and you can grab that teddy bear or something inside the machine. This is exactly what this guy does every day. He's picking up trash and he's putting it into the incinerator hopper. So hopefully, and I didn't think about sharing my sound. Let me see if I can do that. Sorry, I should have done that before we started. So bear with me 1 second because I'm in a different version here. I'm going to start the video and I'd like a thumbs up, Elaine, if you can hear it. No? Okay. I'm just going to quickly pause it for 1 second, and I apologize. I should have thought about this for one moment. There should be a way for me to do it while I'm still sharing. Share computer sound. Here we go.
It's modern energy from waste facilities. Unlike conventional power plants, these sophisticated facilities safely and effectively convert waste materials into clean, renewable energy, recycling useful byproducts. Here in our plants, we weigh post-recycled waste delivered from residential, commercial, and special waste customers before transporting it to the tipping floor. Material is visually inspected before being pushed into the fuel bunker. This renewable fuel can vary widely in moisture content and thermal value, so it is continually managed and monitored in the bunker to ensure consistency. Overhead cranes then load the material into hoppers, where hydraulic rams feed the waste fuel into integrated furnace boiler units. In these units, we combust the waste fuel at extremely high temperatures, moving it steadily through the boiler on reciprocating grate systems that ensure complete combustion and minimize residues. We continually draw air from the waste storage areas into the boiler, creating a constant negative pressure that prevents the escape of dust and odors. A selective non-catalytic reduction system injects a urea mix into the combustion gas to reduce nitrogen oxide emissions. Hot combustion gases pass by a series of boiler tubes filled with water, creating high-pressure steam. The steam is used to drive turbine generators and produce electricity, which is sold to electrical grids to power local homes and businesses. The steam can also be sold to industrial processes or for district heating and cooling. We condense the remaining steam into purified water and return it to the system to allow further renewable energy production. Prior to safely disposing of the inert ash, we remove and recycle ferrous metals, such as iron and steel, and non-ferrous metals, such as copper and aluminum, from the ash residue that are sold and recycled into new products. At Select Ash Monofills, our enhanced metals recycling technologies extract further quantities of metals from the ash residue that are sold and recycled into new products. After heat from combustion or flue gas is absorbed in the boiler to produce steam, the flue gas exits the boiler and powdered activated carbon is injected to capture mercury and trace organic compounds. The flue gas then enters a spray dryer absorber or dry scrubber, where lime is combined with the gas to neutralize acid gases, including sulfur dioxide and hydrogen chloride. The flue gas then passes through a fabric filter or electrostatic precipitator, where particulates, including fly ash, lime, carbon-containing mercury and organics, and any remaining pollutants are removed. Cleaned flue gas exits through the stack after a series of continuous emissions monitors analyze and record emissions levels. Because energy from waste facilities provides such an essential and continuous environmental service, we closely monitor our operations from each facility's control room. Our plant engineers are supported by technical experts in our U.S.-based Performance Center in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. With a proven technology that safely converts diverse waste materials into clean energy and recycles commercial byproducts, Wheelabrator helps sustainably power communities while protecting the environment.
So that video was produced by Wheelabrator Technologies to create pretty much a narrative that waste energy plant is safe and efficient. If you were anyone else seeing that and without this presentation, you would think, wow, that's just amazing. It's totally safe. However, the truth is incineration and landfilling should not be considered our only solution. It's not completely safe. There are negative environmental impacts to both incineration and landfilling. So we need to begin to take a hard look and a more extreme approach to considering how much waste we are creating, what happens to it, and the long-term impact, and what are the alternatives. And it's pretty simple. It's back to the basic 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So let's talk about recycling. Let's talk about single stream recycling. It's actually now referred to as mixed recycling. Some folks got confused that thought single stream meant that you could put garbage and recycling into one stream. We know that that's not true. It's really just single stream for recycling. So we're trying to move away from the word single stream and more towards mixed recycling. It became popular for its convenience in 2013. Residents put everything they think could or should be recycled into their carts. But now we're faced with a challenge with disposal capacity in our state. And so it's time to take a new look at what we recycle and how we recycle, and learn the importance and the need to recycle right, not recycle just more. It's also important to know and understand what many are calling the recycling crisis. It's mostly has to do with the China National Sword Policy, which began in the early 2018. China began banning many scrap materials, what's typically in that blue bin, what you see here, and has not accepted material unless it met an extremely strict contamination rate of 0.5%. Now, contamination rates in the United States vary from place to place, but we can pretty much say that the average is 25%. So if our average is 25% and China is only willing to take 0.5%, we have a huge gap where we can't meet that. And so much of our material was being rejected. The China Sword decision reflects China's desire to recycle more of its domestic waste, and previously China had been the destination of about 40% of the United States paper, plastic, and other recyclables. It didn't take 100%, but it took about 40%. So knowing where your recycling goes is certainly going to maybe change your mind the next time you think, is this recyclable? And the difference is it acceptable? Or the question in your mind is, it's not always, is it recyclable, but it's really more, is it acceptable? And I'll explain that in the what's in, what's out list. Just always remember, it does start with you. It's the decision that you're going to make from the beginning. So this is where your recycling goes. It goes to a material recovery facility. I'm going to call it a Murf. That's the typical term. Murf, again, it's a material recovery facility, and I'm actually going to show you a video on how a material recovery facility works.
Here's how he works. First, trash from the tipping floor is loaded into a hopper, and it's transported up the conveyor belt where it's metered for consistent volume. As incoming material moves along the conveyor belt, workers pull out large items and those materials not capable of being recycled. Unusable garbage is also picked out at this time. These items are placed into a bin and will be transported to a final destination where they recover the energy through incineration. The recyclables continue down the conveyor belt to the first stage, a 3-tier sorting system. The screener allows the cardboard to float to the top of the discs, and 3D material falls below. Since glass is the heaviest, it's crushed between steel plates and drops to the bottom level, where it's transferred to the glass cleanup system. The recyclables are then passed through the polisher, which separates out the newspaper. This material is then quality checked and placed into bins for later baling. The next polisher removes all the remaining fiber or mixed paper with the same quality check stations and bin storage for later processing. Mr. Murf sorters are trained to ensure items are sorted accurately throughout the process. As a result, the amount of contamination in the final recycling bale is greatly reduced, giving us a 95% recovery rate. Now that all the fiber and glass have been removed, the remaining 3D objects such as aluminum, metal, and plastics move on to the second stage of processing. The metal is pulled from the conveyor stream by a cross-belt magnet. This pulls metal, tin cans, and all other ferrous material. The next stage uses an anti-magnet called an eddy current. This machine creates a force field that repels the aluminum up and over a divider while forcing the plastics to fall down into the next stage of optical scanning. The first pass of optical scanning separates the PET or plastic 1 from HDPE or plastic 2. The PET plastic is color commingled with lids and labels attached. The final optical scanning pass separates the natural or clear HDPE from the colored. This optical scanner can identify which plastics have colors and which don't. By identifying each container's position on the belt, colored plastic is blown into one bin, while clear plastic falls off the belt into a separate bin. When all materials are sorted, each one is pushed onto a conveyor belt that brings them to the baler. The baler compresses the material, which can then be shipped off to create new products from the recycled material. Each bale can weigh anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 pounds.
I cut the video a little bit short just because it went on a little longer than necessary. So that's a material recovery facility, and that's where our material goes to get baled. And the material that you just witnessed looked pretty clean, right? It looks like what it should probably look like. The truth about mixed recycling is it's typically dirty, it's bagged, and it's mixed with unacceptable material. This is the real picture from our recycling stream in Western Connecticut. This was taken from material that came from the HRRA community at our material recovery facility. Recycling right increases the value of the material and it reduces costs. But let's look at the recycling stream as an example of what we're really dealing with, and I'm going to go through the examples shortly. Maybe it's not the material that's our problem, maybe it's the people. The reality of what we're facing is not just about what to do with the material, but how we can get generators, residents like yourself, and businesses to change their behavior to do the right thing and improve the system. Look at this picture. This is pretty much garbage. It shouldn't be in the single stream. There are hoses, garbage bags, hoses here, plastic film. It's all pretty much unacceptable. So why so much contamination? This is a recycling pile. It looks like garbage because it is garbage. This is what folks are putting in their recycling container. The primary factors causing contamination are pretty much narrowed down to 4. There's simple non-compliance. Those are the folks who are blatantly bad. They have no intention on recycling and just use their blue bin as a second trash can. There's the believers. Some think virtually everything is recyclable. There's the hopefuls, those of you who think this should be recyclable and they put it into the stream. I bet many of you on tonight are believers and hopefuls. And then there's route-specific issues. Contamination is seen in some communities due to transient population and language barriers. So it's not about hoping, it's not about believing, it's about what is right and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So I'm wondering if anyone can guess what this is. I probably, we won't waste too much time making you wonder and ponder, but it's glass. This is glass that has been sent through the Murf. This has been sent to the material recovery facility via the mixed recycling stream. So glass is a complex issue, but here's a good thing about glass. It's infinitely 100% recyclable. It takes less energy to produce a glass bottle from recycled glass than from raw material. So what's the problem? It's the way we collect glass. That's the problem. Glass should be collected separately, but it has been universal since single stream that we collect it in this mixed recycling system. Why? Because it's convenient, not because of anything else. What happens to the glass that is sent to a material recovery facility? Most likely, it is sent to landfill. 500 miles out of the state of Connecticut. Unless your town is willing to invest in the infrastructure to collect glass separate, or haulers are willing to be able to collect it separate from the mixed stream, this is the fate of glass. Want to know what the good news is? Reading has a separate glass collection now, something that HRRA has implemented with the town, with our region actually. It's a state pilot program just here in Western Connecticut, and we are going to start collecting glass separate to ensure that it gets recycled to a higher beneficial use. There are some Murfs who have invested in technology to enhance the quality of their glass cullet, and soon there will be this facility where our glass is going called Urban Mining. They are going to make a composite cement industrial filler. So there is some good news, but this is the reality. And this is a close-up. When you take an even closer look, you can see the problem. Prescription bottles, bottle caps, shredded paper, batteries, and lots of other bits. None of this belongs in the single stream, ever. Prescription bottles are out. Loose bottle caps are out. There's a little metal lid. I'm surprised it didn't get captured, but because it was loose, it got left into the stream. Here's a battery, a single-use battery. That doesn't belong. Shredded paper. But if you see in between, there are pieces of glass. But this is the fate of glass in the mixed stream. And here's shredded paper. Shredded paper also does not belong in the mixed stream. It actually ends up as trash after it's gone through the Murf. It should be recycled separately, but because of the simple fact that it is paper, folks put it in the blue bin. It's part of that wishful, hopeful recycling. Why? Because they want it to be recycled. They wish for it to be recycled, even when we tell them no. So now you know, don't put your shredded paper in the single stream. I'm going to give you some advice. If you have a large document, let's say it's a 20-page document or 50-page document, and the only thing on the document that's confidential is 3 pages, shred the 3 pages and recycle the rest. Don't shred all 50 pages. There are some collection sites in the HRRA region, and we do collect it at some of our sites. When we're looking at Jeff's face, Jeff, do we have yes, we have a separate shredded paper container at the Reading Recycling Center. So not all of our towns have it. Reading does have one. So they have a container, so if you do have shredded paper, you can bring it there to be recycled separate from the mixed stream. So I'm gonna show you a few more pictures of what folks are putting in so you understand, no, propane tanks are bombs. Propane tanks and cement blocks, they don't belong at the Murf. They shouldn't be in the curbside recycling. Why anyone would ever think so, it's hard for me to understand. Propane tanks come in all sizes, 1 pound to 20 pounds, and sometimes they're not always empty. Believe it or not, they do go off. You have to think about the waste stream. We're using compactors and front-end loaders, and there's a lot of heavy equipment, and when they hit a spark and it's compacted, believe it or not, they do go off, and they're extremely dangerous for our workers. So please don't put your propane tanks in the household trash or in your recycling. You can bring them to different drop-off programs throughout the state, whether it's Mitchell's or Leahy's. You can bring it to a household hazardous waste event as well. They're essentially, like I said, a small bomb. So we call these tangles or cords. They add cost to the material recovery facility. They get wrapped around what we call the V-screen separator, which I'll show you in a minute. These do not belong. Actually, electrical cords can be brought to the Reading transfer station and put in the e-waste container in a special box inside the container. Our e-waste vendor, our electronic waste vendor, we call them e-waste, will actually take them and recycle. There's a lot of copper in those wires, so they will actually get recycled. Okay, dead plants. I don't know if I need to say anything else. They don't go in the recycling stream, including that plastic pot. It doesn't go in the recycling stream. It's not acceptable. I can almost understand that they thought the plastic pot was recyclable, but the fact that they didn't take the dirt in the plant out either is mind-blowing. But this is what we're dealing with in the day-to-day basis in the recycling stream. So this is what happens to plastic bags. Every 3 to 4 hours at the Murf, they shut it down. Now you saw how the system works. You saw how large it is. A lot of moving parts. They shut the entire system down, and these are plastic bags wrapped around the V-screen separator. This is also where the tangles get tangled up. And these are two guys down here, these two yellow shirted men. They get inside manually and cut out the plastic bag and plastic film or wires and cords manually every 3 to 4 hours to remove it, and they have to hope that nobody pushes the button to turn the machine back on. It is an extreme hazard. So please do not put plastic film or plastic bags in your recycling stream. You can return to retail. During COVID, some retailers aren't taking it back. I'm looking at my list. Reading should still have a return plastic film container. Yes, Jeff, yes. So the Reading transfer station has a container for clean, dry plastic bags, clean and dry. We take bread bags, dry cleaner bags, Ziploc bags, grocery bags, just about any plastic bag. If it stretches, it's acceptable. If it crinkles, not acceptable. It's a different polymer. It's probably a cellophane, okay? So this is what happens after it's pulled apart. It just looks like a big pile and it's sent to trash. So no matter the end markets or the final destination for the material, it starts with you willing to do the right thing. It is a cultural change. It's a shift in behavior. It's an attitude. What motivates people ultimately is their wallets. And as we move to higher contamination, we have higher recycling rates, and eventually you're going to see it in your bills if we're not careful. At the municipal level, the first question when I'm proposing a new idea or program is what's it going to cost? It's never what's the carbon impact, and that's sad too. So as we negotiate our way through these crossroads of change, we do need strong leadership. So please support your first selectman as she's navigating and supporting a state initiative right now for an economically and sustainable environmental material system for the future. So let's talk about what can be recycled, because I'm sure that's what you're all eager to learn about, right? The state of Connecticut has a universal recycling guide called the What's In, What's Out. We're going to review what can be recycled and a lot of items that can't be recycled. So the goal is to produce clean value material. These are bales that came out of a Murf to create new products. And the only way we can do that is if we recycle right. So what makes something recyclable? It's pretty simple, end markets. It's not just if it's made from paper, or if it's made from glass, or if it's made from plastic or metal, which is pretty much what people go by. Oh, it's paper, oh, it's glass, it must be recyclable. It's if the product from any one of those materials is simple or complex, meaning is it pure or is it multi-layered, is it multi-laminate, that makes it if it's recyclable. For example, there are 56 grades of paper in the recycling stream. all have different values, all have a different purpose. So as we go through the What's In, What's Out campaign, you begin to understand why we accept certain items and why we don't. So these cards are available at the Reading transfer station. We should probably send some to the library as well, so they're available to all of you there. So we're going to start with paper. So these are the items that are in for paper: cardboard, box board, like cereal boxes, food and beverage cartons. So the important word here is carton. So like a milk carton, a juice carton, those are in. Junk mail's in. Magazines and newspaper inserts are in. Newsprint is in. Newsprint is, so often when you go shopping and you buy something breakable, they put it in an off-white newsprint paper. That's the paper they're sort of referring to here. White office paper, and pizza boxes are in. So many people are confused about pizza boxes. For many years, they were not acceptable. They are now acceptable. So pizza boxes are in. Please take out the crust, the knife, the paper. But even if it has a little grease on the bottom of the box, you can recycle it. If you think it's really bad, there's still cheese crusted on the bottom and there's still an enormous amount of grease, then you can always rip the top off, recycle the top, and throw away the bottom. But in general, if it's in pretty good condition with a little bit of grease, it can be recycled. So what's out for paper? Gift wrap and gift bags. Why is gift wrap out? It's not all alike. It's not universal. Gift wrap comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes, with glitter, with polymer, laminates, with sparkles. It's not all the same. And so because it's not consistent enough and creates a lot of problems for the Murf, and there's not a market, they don't want your gift wrap. They don't want your gift bags either. Those handles on the gift bag are a problem, and just like gift wrap, the gift bags don't always come in this, they're not like a paper bag. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and with all sorts of different laminates and things stuck to it. So they're out. I suggest either not using gift wrap and using something else as an alternative, or reusing your gift bags. Ice cream containers are out. You think that they're very much similar to a milk carton. They feel like it, but they're not. They're actually made of a different type of paper called a wet strength paperboard, which includes a plastic liner of a polyethylene that ensures that it won't break down in the freezer under extreme temperatures. So other examples of wet strength paperboard include frozen food boxes and beer and soda carriers. So think about the polyethylene coating possesses a recycling challenge because the process for recycling paper involves adding water to it and separating the plastics. Well, these cartons are water resistant, so it doesn't have this, it prevents the pulping process from happening to recycle it. So ice cream containers are out. Paper cups, hot and cold. Why? You think, oh, it's paper. Very similar to the ice cream container issue. There's layers of plastic polymer that prevent it from leaking, and many paper cups are not made the same. Some are just paper and some are lined. And so it's easier for the Murfs to say they're out due to markets and the quality of the bale. Shredded paper, I hope that you know why. I showed you. It doesn't get captured at the material recovery facility. It falls through the cracks. And I'm actually going to show you, I don't know if you can see in the camera, I have this little prop that I usually use in person, but this has a 2-inch container. And this is a pretty good measure to decide if something is too small to be recycled. So shredded paper would fall through these cracks, and many of the things inside here, all the things that you saw in that glass pile, prescription bottles and K-cups and straws, etc. And we'll get through that in a few minutes. But shredded paper falls to the crack. It never gets recycled. So please don't put it in your single stream. Takeout food containers, again, we're in the paper category. So it's paper takeout food containers are out. Again, often because they have a water resistant layer. And tissue paper is out, not acceptable, no market. Glass. Generally, there are 3 types of glass: soda lime glass, lead glass, and borosilicate glass. So these 3 types of glass make up about 90% of the cullet glass used in production, and the remaining 5% of the glass is special purpose glass. The town of Reading now has a special container for glass, like I mentioned before, for food and beverage containers. This program is to address the issue that I showed you at the Murf and to ensure the higher beneficial use. So in the Universal State of Connecticut What's In, What's Out guide, beverage bottles and jars, food bottles and jars are in. But please remember that now the town of Reading has this separate program. Please consider taking your glass to the transfer station to dispose of it separately. Ceramic mugs, plates, and drinking glasses are never acceptable. Ceramic mugs are not glass anyway. They're ceramic or they're porcelain. They break like glass, but they're not glass. They're not made out of soda lime, sand. In drinking glasses, they melt at a different temperature than food and beverage bottles, so they're actually not acceptable. So in the metal category, aerosol containers, food grade, would be something like whipped cream or olive oil spray. It's an aerosol container that contained food grade. That is in. It's safe for our workers and our material recovery facility. Aluminum foil is in, cans and bottles, foil containers, metal lids from cans and bottles, all very simple. Metal that is out, not to put in your single stream container, are aerosol containers that contain things that are non-food grade, like deodorizers, cleaners, pesticides. If they're empty, they can actually go in scrap metal at your transfer station, but they don't go in the recycling stream. Foil tops from yogurt containers, they'll never get captured. They're gonna fall through the cracks and become garbage. Paint cans, scrap metal. If it's empty and it's latex, you can peel it out and bring it to scrap metal. If it still has paint in it and it's in liquid form, you can actually recycle that paint. And we have a statewide program for paint we can get into in a few minutes at the end. Pots and pans, never go in your single stream, but great for scrap metal. Small pieces of scrap too. It could be anything that's pretty much metal of any form should go to your scrap metal container at your recycling center. Spiral wound containers. Most people don't know what that is. It's actually something like a Pringles jar. It's a spiral round cardboard with metal ends, or a Pillsbury dough container. When you hit it on the counter, it spirals open. That's a spiral wound container. It does not go in your recycling container. It's 2 components. It's cardboard and it's metal. Now that you've seen a material recovery facility and you understand where the material is going and how it is sorted, you have to imagine that that cardboard container with the metal end is actually going to end up in the metal container. And the paper will never be recycled. Plastic. What's in? Plastic bottles with or without the cap. What that means is I have a plastic bottle here. If the cap is off or on, I can recycle this bottle. Plastic bottles with or without a cap. I'm going to talk about loose caps in a second. Plastic containers and tubs with their lids would be something like whipped cream, butter container, yogurt container, sour cream container, pretty much food grade. If it's a plastic container or a tub with its lid, it's in. Plastic one-use cups are like a Solo cup or this plastic cup. These are in, but no lid, no straw. Why? It's gonna fall through that 2-inch crack and it's never gonna get captured, okay? So small lids and straws, they go through the hole. So the same for the loose bottle cap. So what's out in the blue section, bottle caps are tiny. They're never gonna make it. So if you want this bottle cap to be recycled, put it back on the bottle give the cap a ride through the Murf. If you don't give it a ride, it will never get captured. It will just become a pile of garbage at the end. Plastic bags and wrap, I showed you an example of what happens to it, gets caught in the V-screen separator. Plastic plates, bowls, and utensils, very similar to the issue with paper goods. They're not all made alike. A lot of them are made out of different polymers. Some of them are compostable. Material recovery facilities don't want them. There's no end market. Nobody's buying a bale of plastic plates and bowls or utensils, fall through the cracks, so they're not acceptable. Prescription bottles, too small, fall through the crack. Single-use coffee containers are like the K-cup, Keurig cups. They do not belong in the single stream. They're not a polyethylene container of one. They're a polystyrene. They're actually a styrofoam. So first of all, styrofoam is out. That's the next item, styrofoam cups and containers. So styrofoam is out anyway, but the size of the container actually is really what makes it not recyclable because it falls through the cracks. And then the third reason why it's out is because there's organic material in there. There's coffee grounds. So single-use coffee containers are out. Water filters, out. It made the list because apparently a lot of people, when they're switching out their water filters because they're in a plastic casing, they think that are recyclable. They're not. They're garbage. Please don't put them in your single stream. So recycling is simple. It can work. Only put in the items that are in category. Please have them empty, rinsed, clean, and open. Items should be loose, not bagged. Back in the day, we would bundle and box our paper and our newspaper and our magazines. Please don't do that. We don't want it shredded, we don't want it boxed, and we don't want it bundled because you saw how it works at the material recovery facility. They want everything loose, it's moving. The optics are pushing items and the V-screen separator is bouncing the paper and blowing it off. So it needs to be loose, not bagged. And then, if you really want to recycle, you have to purchase recycled content. And then now you've closed that loop of the circular economy. If you're only buying or making products, you're buying it, you're using it, and you're disposing of it in the recycling container, even if you put it in the recycling container, you're essentially disposing of it if you're not willing to buy recycled content material at the end. And that creates a difference between a linear and a circular economy. I'm just going to quickly touch base on material management solutions, extended producer responsibility laws. We have a paint, mattress, thermostat, and e-waste law in the state of Connecticut. Essentially what it is the manufacturers are made responsible for the end life of their products, often with a partnership with the consumer. So when you buy paint, you pay 75 cents at the time of purchase. That 75 cents goes into a stewardship program that collects the stewardship paint. It collects the legacy paint that might be in your garage, basement, closets, and it actually does get recycled and it's made into new paint. Mattresses are, when you go to buy a new mattress, you'll see that there's a $9 recycling fee. It's not a tax. That fee goes to the stewardship program. That stewardship program pays for the collection, the transportation, and the processing for these mattresses to be recycled, and they are made into new products. The textiles are often made into carpet underlay or insulation. The wood is often made into composite lumber, and the scrap metal is then scrapped and repurposed, melted down and made into new products. We also have a thermostat and e-waste program. The electronic waste program is at your transfer station, free electronic recycling. If it plugs in, you pretty much can recycle it. Thermostats are collected at our hazardous waste event. And then some other things to consider: how to source separate, reduce our solid waste is to source separate other programs like textile recycling. We have another program at Reading Transfer Station, a municipal organics collection. So it's cheaper by the pound to recycle your food scraps at the Reading Transfer Station than it is to get rid of your garbage at the Reading Transfer Station. So if you have curbside collection of your garbage in Reading, you might want to consider using the organics program to drop off your organics on a regular basis for only 10 cents a pound. But then you can, because you're taking out the organic matter, what makes your garbage smell, Maybe you only need to have pickup every other week or once a month from your trash hauler, reducing your cost. So that's a consideration. You want to learn more about that organics food scrap collection program from Reading. We can talk about it at the end with Jeff, or you can always contact my office later. Bag bans and plastic film return to retail programs are helpful to reduce waste. And don't forget our bottle bill. We have a deposit system that also helps divert waste and litter from our environment. Unit-based pricing at the curb or at our transfer station. Reading actually has a unit-based pricing system at the transfer station. You pay for what you're throwing away. You're paying by the unit. You're not just paying one set fee. And recycling right will reduce cost and increase the value of the material. So managing our waste is a form of stewardship. I hope you come away feeling that. It comes in the form of making a decision to do the right thing. And the right thing is not always simple, easy, or convenient, but it is our duty to take care of our environment, and there's no other choice but to think about how we will manage the material and its life cycle to protect it. So if you want to know more about the what's in, what's out, I am actually a board member of the Recycle CT Foundation, recyclect.com or HRRA.org. We do have the widget on our website, and I just also want to show, I think this should take me to our page, taking us to hazardous waste. This is our homepage of the HRRA website. So if you ever have a question about how to recycle something, how about sharps? You can put it in this widget on our homepage. It sends you to the Recycle CT search. Sharps should not be put into your recycling bin. So it gives you answers if you ever have a question. Also, if you want to know what's happening at the Reading transfer station, if you go to drop-off centers and click on Reading, you can learn all about how you can get a permit, that it's required, the hours of operation, the location, and then down here, you can look and see that, look, paint, it's accepted and it's free. So if you have paint, you don't have to wait for a hazardous waste event. You can take it to the Reading transfer station and recycle it right there. The town of Reading is a drop-off location for this program. So anything that you have a question, you antifreeze, it's accepted. You can go through this whole list of items and see if it is or isn't accepted. If you want a copy of the what's in, what's out, you can go back to our homepage and you can print the We Will flyer right here. And there's a PDF form on the what's in, what's out. So I'm going to leave it at that. And Elaine, would you like me to stop sharing?
That would be great. We can do questions. Great. Thank you, Jen. Wonderful amount of information. Thank you so much. We do have some questions already. So if we have one about milk and juice cartons with plastic lids. Can they be recycled?
So yes, milk juice cartons with plastic lids, yes, they can be recycled. They go in your mixed stream. And the other part was your trash collector does not use Reading, but goes elsewhere. He is used by many, does not encourage glass separated from the rest. He practically laughed. So I don't know who your trash collector is and where he goes to use for his tips his recycling. He would either go to Danbury or he would go to Ridgefield. So those are the two places that commercial haulers, collectors from curbside, take their recycling. And he may or may not be a proponent of separating glass. It is sad because maybe he doesn't have enough information. Understand that we have 60 registered haulers in the HRRA region. Actually, I'm gonna share my screen again. If you go to the HRRA website, I apologize, I'm gonna multitask. There is a list of registered haulers in the HRRA region. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so if you go to residents, how to choose a hauler. There's some tips about choosing a hauler. You don't have to stick with the same one you always have. You can go to over here, there's a Reading. You can click on Reading and you'll just get all of the haulers who are registered in Reading. So All American, Associated, City Carting, Ness, Oak Ridge. There's plenty of haulers who are registered in Reading who are supporting this program. So feel free to shop around, and also understand that haulers you could have 10 residents on the same road paying 10 different rates for garbage. Shop around is all I'm going to say. Highly recommend it.
It's good to know. Thank you. Jen, also, can you let us know, does all of this that you've talked about tonight pertain to the state or just to Reading?
Pretty much the entire state. The What's In, What's Out campaign is a statewide universal recycling list, and the town of Reading is honoring that list.
Okay, very good. And why should we not string up our boxes? And also, what do you mean about recycles should not be bagged?
So if you saw if you watched the video of the material recovery facility, if the boxes are strong, they're not going to be loose going through the process to be sorted through the system. The system needs it to be loose. It'd be different if you had a cardboard only compactor and you had a place where you're bringing just cardboard. Essentially could probably be tied, because it's not going to go through the same process. It's basically going to get dumped and then baled. But in the single stream, in the mixed recycling stream, everything needs to be loose and it shouldn't be bagged. We can handle some bags. Don't want to confuse people, but clear plastic bags should be acceptable, but the material recovery facilities would prefer you not to use them, because if they do break open, you saw what happens to the plastic film. It gets caught in the V-screen separator.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Where are recyclables going now after they leave the Murf since 2018? And are there markets that can use them now, or are they being stockpiled somewhere else?
It's a good question. So for a period of time, we did have an issue with recyclables being stockpiled on docks because they couldn't go anywhere. A lot of that has changed. We have a lot of domestic processors that are now online taking material. So we have a lot of domestic and overseas. Things have opened up. Markets are getting better. So they are going to different markets, different processors, where it all depends on the material. So paper often is sent north to Maine or Pennsylvania. Plastics are usually Midwest. Scrap metal is actually more local. So it really depends on where it is, but we do have markets.
Okay, and then more specifically to plastics, with a diminished market for recycled plastics worldwide, wouldn't it be better to put numbered clear plastics in the garbage?
I'm not sure what you mean by numbered cleared plastic. So the diminished market for recycling plastic. So the markets, there are still viable markets for recycled content, for recycled material. So no, I don't think it's better to put it in the trash. Remember, we have to look at them as a resource, and we're depleting natural resources from the environment. We're pumping petroleum out of the earth to make these plastic containers to then throw them away and just keep pumping oil out. No, we need to use the material that these manufacturers and producers have decided to package the content of whatever it is that you're buying, and we need to send it to the Murf in a clean way so that it is viable, it has value, and it's being made into new products. Another thing that we need political will in legislation to force manufacturers to have minimum content. So they should be making products with at least 30% post-consumer recycled material. It shouldn't be that they can make it out of whatever they want, 100% virgin. So if we had forced legislative policies, we would see actually a much more viable recycling market. We'd create a much heavier supply and demand.
Thank you. And Jen, can you talk a little bit about batteries, just batteries in general, and then watch batteries? And then we had a question about alkaline batteries and smoke detectors. How can they be recycled and disposed of safely?
Okay, so Single-use batteries and rechargeable batteries are accepted in our e-waste container. Our e-waste electronic waste vendor does take them, and they do get recycled. We actually have 2 large battery processors in the United States that take batteries, and they smelt the metals and recapture them to be made into new products. And smoke detectors, they're garbage. They do, when you first purchase them, they have a very small amount of radioactive material, very, very small amount, minimum amount. And over the years, after it's been used for 10 years or so, it dissipates. And per EPA and Connecticut DEP, they deem it safe for it to be put into their household trash and to be incinerated. Not saying that I agree with that, but I'm saying that that is the method that is recommended by EPA and Connecticut DEP. I personally would like to see another EPR program, Extended Producer Responsibility Program, where the manufacturers of these smoke detectors are required to take them back. And they are required to recycle the plastic and the components inside and repurpose them. That is going to be another task I take on in the next year or 2. Right now I'm working on fuel cylinders. But for now, you can put them in your household trash.
Thank you. And did you mention what we should do with watch batteries? Are they any different?
You can we call them button batteries. They're recyclable in the e-waste container, or you can bring them to a hazardous waste event.
Okay, thank you. If there is one thing across the state that you wanted everyone to know, to do what would be the one thing that has the biggest impact? Excuse me.
Only recycle the items that are in the in category to recycle right. Our biggest issue is contamination. That is our biggest issue. You saw the photos I showed in the beginning of the contaminated pile of recycling. It's garbage. It increases cost. It reduces the value of the good stuff. It's detrimental to the integrity of the recycling stream. So recycling right is the one thing everyone could do.
What about, is there a solution for styrofoam? What is it? I understand it can be recycled if quality and clean. Can it really be recycled?
Okay, so again, it goes back to the difference between something that's recyclable and something that's acceptable. Almost everything theoretically is recyclable. Almost everything can be made into something else. There's technology for styrofoam to be recycled. We don't have it here in the Northeast, so it's not acceptable. We don't accept styrofoam. It's out in the What's In, What's Out campaign. It's garbage. And the reason it's garbage is there's no market. There's no, if it got baled, and if we had 50 bales of it sitting on a dock, there are very few brokers who want it. And that's what it comes down to, markets. So it's just not there. What we should consider is banning styrofoam.
Thanks. You said that we're at capacity in Connecticut with trash. Also, the video said Connecticut is 100% waste to energy. Can you say a little more about where we are at? What might help us to get rid of trash more efficiently?
So yes, we have 5 waste to energy plants that can handle so much capacity per day, so much garbage per day. And we're generating enough to feed the beast, to feed the waste to energy plants. If we continue to produce more and more garbage, we can't handle it. The biggest issue is that the Hartford waste to energy plant, which is one of our largest waste to energy plants in the next 3 years, is going to close. That is going to create a bottleneck for 59 municipalities that send their waste to that waste to energy plant. We don't. We send ours to Bridgeport. But that's going to be a big issue. They are considering putting in a rail line to rail the garbage out of the state of Connecticut to landfill. And that's what they think the solution is. My solution is a cultural change. Public education, outreach, trying to reach people, even these small audiences right now. And look, there's 23 people tonight on this chat. I wish there were 230. But if I have to spend every night with 23 people or 10 people to try to bring the message to talk to people about this issue. That's my job. And we need to change the cultural behavior of that linear economy of we're just going to buy a bunch of stuff, we're going to use it up, and we're going to throw it away. We need to change our behavior to say, you know what, everything that I have in my home has a value of some sort. Maybe not a value to you anymore, but a value to someone else, or a value to some other market. And if there is no value, like styrofoam, for example, then why are we making it? Then why are we allowing manufacturers to make products that there's no there's no life cycle to it? If it doesn't have a life cycle, then it should be banned.
And Jen, is there a name of a lobby to tap into that would put pressure on the manufacturers?
The manufacturers all have lobbyists. They're the ones we're fighting. So I've been working on legislation for several years for various different bills. One is the bottle bill is a good example. I think it's our 4th year of fighting to extend and modernize the bottle bill to increase the fee from 5 cents to 10 cents, which would incentivize folks to take it back than throwing out on the lawn. Modernizing it to increase the handling fee where the redemption centers are reimbursed, and the lobbyists fight us. The liquor and spirit industry fight us. Coca-Cola fights us. When we tried to put EPR in place for battery recycling, the battery industry, Duracell, Energizer, Sony, they fought us. And the legislators listened to them. We were lucky to get paint passed. I'm looking at a bill right now for manufacturers to be responsible for the end life of fuel cylinders. So those propane tanks, whether they're 1 pound or 20 pound. I created legislation last session. Because of COVID, it didn't get the hearing, but I'm actually surprised I have a lot of support from industry on that. The fuel industry is lobbying against it, but I have the lobbyist for the material recovery facilities and waste to energy plants on my side. So it really just depends on who thinks the program will work. And the big thing is, at the end of the day, the businesses don't want to lose money. So if they think they're going to lose profit, they're going to fight it, including the haulers. So believe it or not, even the bottle bill is fought by the hauling industry lobbyist. So in regards to a particular name that could help us, the Citizens Campaign for the Environment has a lobbyist, and a lot of the NGO environmental communities have lobbyists. They're not always received very well in Hartford, unfortunately. They have a bad name to some degree. It's really unfortunate. As a municipal leader, I have a little bit more leverage. And what we need is more residents writing or calling their chief elected officials, your Julie Pembertons, and saying, please support this bill. I see the value in it.
Thank you. What about incandescent light bulbs, LED light bulbs, fluorescent light bulbs? What should we do with those?
You can recycle them at the transfer station in the e-waste container.
Very good. And are Rubbermaid products recyclable, such as a kitchen trash can?
So that's a high density polyethylene, and so we call it a rigid plastic, and they are recyclable. Often what you want to do though is you don't put it in your single stream recycling, you bring it down to Reading and you put it in bulky waste. And when it gets to the transfer station in Oak Ridge, they actually pull out the bulky rigids and the bulky waste because there is value to it.
Okay, very good. Good to know. Why was the plant pot unacceptable? Just because it had been dirty, or was there another reason?
Well, let's pretend it didn't have the dirt and the plant still in it, and it was just an empty pot. It's the type of plastic, they don't want it. So the material recovery facilities don't want it because they don't have a market to sell them. Okay. So what I recommend is if you have nursery pots, ask your local garden club if they'd like them for their annual garden sale. So often garden clubs are trying to gather those types of pots in the spring, and they dig up their own plants in their own yards and then resell them. So you can try that, or other nurseries. Otherwise, they are trash.
Good. Thank you. Sad to say, but thanks. There's so many of those pots around. Are there any other questions? And Jeff is here from our recycling center, and so he can answer anything specific to Reading. I know, Jeff, you have something coming up Saturday, right?
Saturday is shred day and e-waste collection day, 9 to 12 at the recycling center. Residents are allowed to bring 5 file boxes at no charge. And plus our e-waste collector, who is Take Two, will be there to collect any kind of e-waste. So
Very good.
bring your stuff.
It's good to know. I think we have one more question, or a couple more questions have come in. Does anything in the trash stream get recycled and pulled out for recycling?
No, unfortunately it doesn't. There's actually a law in the state that the generator is required and responsible to source separate material from trash and recycling. Once it's picked up at your curb or dropped off, it does not get sorted. So no, it doesn't recycling doesn't get pulled out.
Okay. And a question about e-waste. Is that only allowed on certain dates? Like, Jeff, can we only bring it on Saturday, or is e-waste collected at other times?
E-waste is collected all the time.
Okay.
Whenever we're open, you can bring e-waste.
Good to know. Okay, wonderful. And I think that trash collectors should also try to educate us. They probably could do more work with work that they probably have more work to do with that.
Well said. So I would like to see that. We actually, as the HRRA, I have an education budget. I offer haulers anything they want. And I will print it and provide it to them that they could put in their invoices and bills to distribute to their customers. Very few take advantage of it. I see someone asked how they can get in contact with me. My email is pretty easy. It's jennifer@hrra.org. So you can email me at jennifer@hrra.org. You can go to our website, hrra.org, and our contact information is there and our telephone number. Or if you don't remember that, info@hrra.org.
Thank you, Jennifer, so much. Thank you, Jeff, for being here also. I think we've learned a great deal tonight.
I see someone asked Jeff about the organics waste in Reading.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see this. And there's another one. Jeff, can you talk a little bit about the organics waste program in Reading?
I didn't see the question, but I mean, the organics, you sign up for the organics waste. You can do it through my office. You get a small tote plus a sink top, a countertop container to put your stuff in, and then you come up to transfer and you dump it into a bigger toter at 10 cents a pound, where usual MSW is 20 cents a pound. So you're saving 10 cents a pound for the heaviest part of your garbage. And that's kind of it. If anybody who wants to join you, they can call my office Monday and we'll set them right up. We'll put them on the list.
It sounds like a great program. Thank you.
We tried this year because of COVID. We really didn't do it. We're kind of a little bit behind, but in the spring we usually buy some of the organics back and we give them to the participants for free for their gardens.
Compost. He buys compost.
Yeah, the compost. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Many gardeners would love that. And another question came in on thoughts on impact of all of us. Oh, sorry, my screen keeps jumping. All of us doing better versus if businesses improve and use recycled materials.
I'm not quite sure I understand, but thoughts on my thoughts on the impact of us all doing a better job, and maybe having businesses maybe not use single-use products. I'm sorry, maybe you might want to restate your question. And somebody else made a comment about avoiding single-use plastics. Yes, thank you. I very appreciate that comment. Single-use plastics should be used rarely and on occasion.
That's good. And then also someone's really happy about the organic waste program. Good to hear about that. So Thank
I
you.
hope you all learned something tonight and took away something from this evening. I hope I've inspired you to change your habits. And the next time you have something to dispose of, I hope you'll think about where will it go, and will it be used to made into a new product, or will it be sent to waste to energy?
This is wonderful. Thank you both. Thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone for coming tonight.